I couldn't read that all at once. I had to break it into two parts. This is the second part. It follows on the first. The embassy called. Once more I entered the maze of official hallways. The woman consulate walked with me to an empty room where a large pile of clothes lay on the carpeted floor. Other items were laid out in rows: cameras, electronics, iPods, white Apple charger cables, iPhones, computers, and things bought in Lamu. After an awkward silence, she said, "Would you like tea or coffee?" "Yes, coffee, a cappuccino." "Sure." When she returned, I was on my knees, my hands moving reluctantly among their dresses, tops, sandals, light sweaters, jeans, belts, and shoes. I sat back on my haunches, feeling more feral than human. "I didn't know how else to present everything," she said. "Here are some bags for holding smaller items," and she held out a dozen different sized gauze bags with colorful tie strings. I later learned she had bought them herself. "Thank you. Oh, this is hard." "Of course it is. Can I help?" I nodded and wiped a hand across my eyes. The consulate got on her knees and held up items for me to identify. "Dick has called several times," she said. "He wants Bess's things shipped to Nantucket and his portion of his daughter's ashes. He'll take Jude's portion of Claire's ashes too." "He can be very demanding, can't he?" "Yes, he likes being in control." "No one else came with you?" "No, there's only Jude, Dick, and Claire's mother, Rose. Jude went to his father. Dick didn't want Jude to be alone. Claire's mother doesn't like me, but this was her only daughter and her granddaughter." Her only child, her granddaughter? "There's also Claire's father. I hope someone has told him." We continued separating their belongings. I ate alone in the cafeteria, lunch alone in the cafeteria, salad, coffee, and a hard roll. I watched people eating lunch together, walking in and out in pairs, while down the hall lay Claire and Bess's possessions, never to be touched by them again. After lunch, I sat on the floor. Claire's large Apple computer was bent back on itself as though it were a slab of wet clay. I couldn't touch it. I picked up a turquoise dress with a black lace edging. Claire wore it on her 47th birthday 2 years ago in Utah. She had wondered if we'd celebrate her birthday, and I said, "Oh, yes," and I told her friends were coming, that we had to walk away from the house to allow the caterer to set up. She was curious, who's coming? What are we having to eat? Who made the cake? How come she hadn't heard these plans? I told her it was a surprise. I said, "Get dressed and we'll walk up to Cougar Fault across the road." We walked away from the house. I conveyed a sense of urgency, saying I didn't want the caterers or our friends to see her. She had worn the dress I held in my hand. We headed up the dirt track. I made her promise not to look back, but I looked back at her. In the distance, one blue mesa wave receded beyond the next until we could see only the lightest blue in the far distance. The cliff looked west toward the Pine Valley Mountains and out across Miss Mesa. The drop at the fault's edge was a sheer 1,000 feet. What Claire didn't know was that no one was coming. A friend in Springdale had prepared the meal: a taste of guacamole and chips, a small pear salad, and cold poached salmon. 2 other friends set a table on the flat rock with a white linen cloth. The rock was barely large enough to hold the table and 2 chairs. We'd have to jump a 3-foot gap to reach the rock. And not until she ducked under the last tree limb did she notice the table. "What's this?" "Happy birthday." "No, yes, but down at the house?" "No one's coming." The setting sun gave her the best gift as it lit up the red rock mesas, highlighting their various shades of red, yellow, and amber. Then it threw out long blue shadows, and finally the shadows turned purple. After that appeared the dark sky and the first stars. In the stuffy, neon-lit room, I finished sorting their clothes. When the consulate gave me a hug, I felt the warmth of her body and lingered in our hug. She understood. Take care, Robert. If there's anything, oh, thank you, I will. I'd be afraid the embassy would be too formal. We're just people.